On this installment of the basics, I'm going to take you through the 5 main colors of Magic the Gathering, as well as a 6th multicolor that comes in handy. Now, choosing the color you want to play as is the biggest thing in Magic the Gathering, because until you make that choice, you're not playing. And it determines the type of deck you're going to build and play with, whether or not you're playing with your friends or going to tournaments eventually. So the color is everything. So without any further ado, let me show you the colors of Magic the Gathering. I'm going to start this off with green. Green is the color of life in Magic the Gathering. You see a lot of creatures that revolve around insects, animals. You see walls that revolve around trees, all sorts of things like that. Worms. Green is a great color to play if you want to use a lot of spiders and forest worms and things like that. There's a lot of good, powerful creatures and spells as well in green. You can make a combination green deck, as I'll get into later, using some of the multicolored cards. They do come in handy in a combination green deck as well. But I do have a green deck. It's mostly comprised of spiders and worms, and it's come in handy several times. So you might want to give it a shot as your first deck. It's an easy color to work with right off the bat. Red is the color of fire, lightning, anything like that, volcanoes, lava. You also find in red a lot of goblins as far as the creatures are concerned. While there are more creatures involved, goblins are very prevalent in the red, so you can make a very good goblin deck. And there are a lot of instants that do heavy damage that in regards to lightning, and especially lava burst here, as it deals X amount of damage to creature or player depending on what's already out on the field of play. If you want a power deck, once you learn how to play Magic a little better and get a couple games under your belt, that's when you start experimenting with red. But be aware that if you're playing with someone who's been playing Magic for a long time, or you start going to tournaments, you see a lot of combination red-black decks. So not just one suit, but combination, and those are deadly. The next color is blue, and as you might guess, blue is the color of water, oceans, islands. The creatures revolve around, enchanted ducks, drakes, scryers like this one here, mermaids, anything that has to do with water, sea creatures. One of my blue decks actually has giant crabs, which is cool because they're a very useful card. I keep 3 of those in my deck. Your mana consists of pretty much islands, obviously because it's blue, which is water. Blue has a lot of power cards. It's an interesting deck to make and to play with, because there's a lot involved with the color blue, but it's a great second step. If you don't want to go to red right away, then you go to blue. White is the color of all things good. So you see a lot of shamans, priests, Pegasus, Wall of Swords, all kinds of crazy things like that, and birds. White has a lot of creatures based on flying. So if you want to make a deck to avoid trample, which I forgot to mention, a lot of cards in green have trample, whereas the white has flying. You can fly over the battlefield and get to your opponent and deal more damage that way, but cards in the white suit are a little weaker generally than the rest of the suits. You see a lot more 1/1, 1/2, 2/2, and unless you have Circle of Protection going, it's not going to be a white deck's not very powerful for all intents and purposes. Once you start playing Magic more often and learn the colors, white is a good color to mix with other colors to make a combination deck. And finally, the last of the 5 main colors is black, and as you can guess, the black suit is pretty much death incarnate. You see a lot of zombie boas, rats, skeletons, all sorts of nasty stuff that you would associate with death, dying. A lot of the spells in black weaken your opponent's creatures and kill them outright or do nasty things to them. Black is a very nasty color, but it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest suit in the game. It's a great, great deck to build if you want to deal with somebody rather quickly, but you have to know how to use it to its full potential. There are a lot of good cards that can help you do that, but it's not easy. I would suggest that anyone who wants to build a kick-ass black deck to wait till they've experimented with the other colors first. And finally, we have a multicolor that was introduced well into the run of a game, and it is, I call it just gold, but it's considered multicolor. These cards, as you see here, are multi-suited, so you can use them in corresponding decks with multi-suits. This one would be working well in a black and a red combination deck, and I do have this in a red-black combination deck. You have other cards like Silver Drake, not a bad card. This is made for a combination white and blue deck. This is what the multicolored was created for, to add a new dynamic to the game. Instead of just having a deck made up of one suit, you can make a deck that has two suits and use the multicolored cards to enhance it. It's not easy. I would get through working on single suit decks before you get into multicolored, because even though a multicolored deck can be powerful, it also brings new problems. It takes longer to get a lot of those cards out, and you have to have twice the mana in the deck of obviously both colors. So good luck with that. As I mentioned earlier, if you're just starting out, stick with one color. Don't start mixing right away. You have to get the feel of the game before you do anything. Especially with the newer expansions and the way the game's changed over the last few years, it's more imperative that you stick with one color to start off with. If you're more an advanced player, or you want to become more of an advanced player, talk to someone with experience who's played for years, and they will help you with the multicolored cards in making a double suit deck. You don't have to have multicolored cards in a double suit deck, but like I said, they enhance. Feel free to ask me questions. I will respond in the comment section under the video. That's all for this episode. Everybody have a good day.